Good day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it, please do hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notifications every time I upload. And if you want to support the channel even more, please do consider becoming a member by hitting the join button. With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user Twin Bridesmaid, titled, "Am I the a-hole for pulling out of my sister's wedding due to her in-laws?" For background, Stella and I are identical twins, 29 female, and we will both be 30 when her wedding comes around this fall. I had her as my maid of honor 8 years ago, and she promised me that I could be hers when her wedding came around. I have 2 kids, 6 female and 3 female. They're the flower girls. My marriage fell apart just over 2 years ago due to a stillbirth and my husband's infidelity. My parents and sister were the only reason I didn't drown from the stress, loneliness, and total abandonment of my spouse. I was a total mess. I went to therapy, got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, quit drinking, and I owe a lot of it to my amazing sister. She's the reason why I kept chasing down my ex for child support when he stopped suddenly paying. He suddenly switched from world's best dad to deadbeat dumbass so quickly that my ex-mother-in-law is also disgusted with him. Stella and John, 35 male, engaged last year. His parents are paying about 60% of the wedding. Our parents are paying 30%, Stella and John are paying for the rest themselves. The biggest caveat is that they must be married in John's family's church, full mass with communion. The family is on board because this is going to be a very big wedding. Tonight, Stella had invited me to dinner, as they had finally reserved a date for the church and reception, assuming it was to formally ask me to be her maid of honor. I was excited since I haven't been at a wedding party aside from my own wedding. John was with her. Weird because Stella didn't mention him coming at all in our texts about the dinner. We hugged like usual, but John didn't. Weirder. After we got our drinks, they got to it. In a nutshell, John expressed the following. "Despite my best efforts to keep it secret, my parents found out that you're divorced when they asked why your husband wasn't coming. They are no longer comfortable with you as maid of honor because it won't look good to the church if my family hears about the divorce. You can be a bridesmaid, but can't mention the divorce or your conditions at all during the wedding events." I was stunned, and I felt tears in my eyes. Stella started crying too, and she tried to spin it in a good way. "This is way less stressful for you, so it's a good thing. Mother-in-law has already approved my BFF as my maid of honor, so please don't make this any harder." That's what she said. I knew that I couldn't possibly stay there through an entire meal. I had to process this new information alone. I didn't speak, I just paid for my wickedly expensive cocktail and left to order an Uber home. A few hours ago, I texted Stella that I would not be in her wedding party at all. That was my decision. I wouldn't pull my daughters out, but I would only attend as a guest. She wouldn't take this as an answer, so I had to temp block her due to her excessive texts and calls. I sent my parents a summary of what happened and promised to call them when I was in a better shape tomorrow. Stella thinks that this is a total overreaction. I don't even want to know what John thinks at this point. Please help me. Am I the a-hole? I'm going not the a-hole for this one personally. I think that their reasoning is a complete cop-out. I absolutely despise the fact that they're going along with what the mother-in-law wants for their own wedding, despite it being their own wedding. How about these two stop hiding behind the excuse of, oh, it's the mother-in-law, what she says goes, and just say, we don't want you there as maid of honor. Grow a spine and say this from the start of the wedding planning. This isn't something that just comes up like that. It's honestly disgusting to me. If these two getting married had any semblance of a spine, they would have backed up their sister from the get-go and not kowtowed to this goddamn mother-in-law. But no, let's not rock the boat. Let's screw over someone that doesn't deserve to be screwed over, and that we promised this ages ago. I'm sure they'll trust us afterwards. Also, let's get mad at them when they decide not to be a part of the wedding party, because doubling down is fun. Not the asshole OP. I hate these people. I hate them so much. In the comments, Snarking in the USA says, "Not the asshole. Honestly, I wouldn't let the kids be in this wedding either. They don't need to be subjected to the in-laws' high and mighty attitude." Yep, I would pull the kids out of the wedding and tell her that you don't want her or her in-laws to make your children feel the way she has made you feel. Lemony Slush says, "This so much. As painful as it is, please don't allow your innocent kids to be props for Stella's in-laws. Their religion and conservatism does not take precedence over your and your kids' health and well-being. Hang in there. Snoo says, the mention of Mass seems to indicate it's Catholic, and the church dogma doesn't give a rat's ass about the marital standing of anyone other than the bride and groom. This is all on sister's bigoted in-laws. Also, I thought the husband cheating would absolve the wife of any guilt in a divorce. I'm not Catholic, but Lutheran, so maybe it's one of those nuanced things in my denomination. Mother Bike says, not the a-hole. I'm appalled that your sister is even going through with this. Like, mother-in-law approved BFF to be maid of honor. What the hell? Good thing you noped out of it, because I have a funny feeling you won't be the only one if mother-in-law is the one controlling this from behind the scenes. KS Knitter says, exactly. What else is your twin's mother-in-law going to do? Select the names of her kids? Decorate their home? So many red flags. Goodness forbid the twin ever gets or has to get a divorce. She'll either be alone because it's all her fault and X doesn't have to do shit, or she will be kept from the kids because can't have such a sinner in our precious grandchildren's lives. That is, if she's allowed to get a divorce, because good Christian couples stay together and the good Christian housewife turns a blind eye to her good Christian husband's side pieces. Yikes. Back up to the post, we have an edit. Thank you for all the responses. I half expected to be told to just put up with it and be a plain bridesmaid, which, while difficult, I kind of would have forced myself to just make Stella happy. I was just so blindsided, and I feel like I've been gut-punched, and I do need to be told if I'm overreacting in a big way sometimes. I'm going to fall asleep now while binging Friends, and wonder if my twin has suddenly become an Ursula instead of Phoebe. Edit 2. Wow, I did not expect this to blow up. I can't thank everyone enough for their input. I have a call scheduled with my parents this afternoon. From what I gathered, they're extremely upset with Stella and John at the moment, and depending on how that goes, I will talk to my girls about doing something big and fun instead. The more I think about it, sitting through a mass sounds less and less appealing. I'm not even religious. And I saw this query in the comments. Yes, I had a cocktail with no alcohol. I use the word mocktail, but I guess its meaning is still lost to some people. When I asked for a list of mocktails last night, the server was a little condescending about it and said they're still called cocktails if they're not alcoholic. And now, on to the update. This is going to be a brief update. John found the post as he lurks on Reddit and shared it with Stella. I wish I used the fake name Ursula since she joked about that detail herself. Stella Ursula has officially called off the wedding. When John was ranting about the post and how bad the comments were painting him, he said that, your sister must be off her effing meds and going manic. You better get her ass under control. But then Stella Ursula actually came undone on him and began calling out everything that John and his family had put her through. Then she took off the ring and chucked it across the living room. John went into a rage, and while he didn't do anything but yell at her, he threatened her in regards to her mobility issues. Stella Ursula uses a cane to walk. This was what triggered her to text our parents and myself. By the time our parents made it to the house, John was gone, and she had packed up her bags and left with them. Her cane was not in the house. Stella Ursula wanted to thank you for all the comments calling her out. It shattered the mosaic that John built up around them, and while we're both still raw and processing the last couple of days, I'm glad to have my sister again. She was someone else I hardly recognized a few days ago. As kids, I was more outgoing and she was more reserved, so I felt obliged to go along with her to the other night, despite how conflicted I felt. But again, Stella Ursula says thanks for the wake-up call. And John, if you see this, F you. And you know what? F you too, Keith. In the comments, Neither Water says, he took away her cane? Witch of Words replies, abusers will often target and take advantage of disabilities to enforce their control. OP's sister really dodged a bullet. This. Unfortunately, domestic abuse is more common when the victim is disabled. Cynical Mage says, what kind of soulless family does Keith come from that a woman left divorced due to a stillbirth and the husband cheating is someone to be ashamed of rather than a victim of tragedy? Yeah, Keith, F you. The kind that takes walking canes from people with mobility issues, apparently. It's just one line. The cane was not in the house, but screw me, that tells a lot about that asshole Keith. F you, man. As always, the people who need some imaginary sky daddy to force them to be a decent person are inherently bad people. Decent people don't need to be forced to be decent. The Burger Bites Back says, I try not to judge people based on religion, but I'm always wary because I've met multiple people who seem genuinely confused about how I can have a moral code or sense of ethics without the Bible. They'll sit there and ask things like, I believe murder and assault is bad because the Bible says people who do that go to hell, but atheists don't believe in hell, so what's stopping you from doing things? And not realize that what they're actually telling me is that the only reason they're not out here assaulting and murdering people is because they're afraid of being punished for it, and that if, as happens to many people, they ever have a crisis of faith and stop believing, there will be nothing holding them back. And that is effing terrifying. Ali McGraw replies, I used to teach ethics to college students in a conservative area, so this came up a lot, and I always ask them, with genuine curiosity, if you found out for sure that God wasn't real, what would you do that God's stopping you from doing? The two most common answers were skip church and get a tattoo, and I'd be like, not adultery followed by a murder spree? Which made at least some of them think twice about whether belief in God had to be the basis for moral behavior. After hearing this story, I don't feel as though my feelings on the situation have changed. Screw you, Keith, and screw you, John. Terrible partner, terrible person to be with in general, and deserving to have the marriage thrown back in his face. This is what you get for kowtowing to crazy, insane parents. That's what you get for being a controlling freak. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, guys? I'd love to know what you think down in the comments below. Our next post is by user BigBeardFPV titled, Feel like having a baby was a huge mistake. I'm her father, and no, I didn't have to push out the baby or carry her for 9 months, but I don't think I've ever been more sad, exhausted, or depressed over a decision my whole life. Prior to the baby, I had lots of hobbies, traveled the world, had a thriving, loving relationship with my wife, and more. I built things, flew drones, worked on cars, and I loved my Wall Street job, but it all feels like that's gone. I have a 9-week-old, and it's been rough. Nobody can really explain how demanding and exhausting and selfless you have to be to raise a child. I'm just grabbing at any moments of peace, and when she sleeps, I just want to stay up and have a chance to be me. But I'm so tired that I can't even enjoy those moments. I find myself wanting to pack up and just disappear. I find myself not even wanting to wake up because I know what the day requires. When does it get better? When will I get 7 to 9 hours straight of sleep every night again? When will I get a chance to live again? I don't get time with my wife, love life is non-existent, I don't get to travel or do any hobbies I had. I work 9 to 10 hours a day, and I'm exhausted even before the day starts. I feel so guilty because she's beautiful, and it isn't her fault, but if I could go back and undo this decision, I would. I know not all the experiences are the same, but I'm hoping someone has a positive word or glimmer of hope for me. I hope I didn't ruin my life. An honest write-up from first-time dad. Obviously, I'm not a parent, so I can't particularly weigh in on this, but I've read quite a bit. This is just growing pains. This is what it's like having a baby, a 9-week-old. Fortunately for most, unfortunately for some, they don't stay that way forever. So much like a puppy that you get gifted on Christmas that you don't really want because it's going to get big one day, you can't just give it back to the pound. You gotta stick this thing out for 18 years and it will get better. Believe. Also, I feel like it goes without saying that was a joke. That was a joke. People that do that are terrible. Do not abandon puppies on Christmas. Terrible idea. Do not do it. In the comments, C Carter CC says, You're not raising a child yet. You are taking care of an infant. Over the next 2 to 3 years, this child will transform from something that needs your total care and attention to keep it alive to a valuable member of your family who will have its own thoughts, feelings, and excitement for the experiences that you and your partner give it. You'll be able to share your hobbies with the child. What child isn't going to go absolutely bonkers about drones? I hope as the child develops and shows more abilities and personality, you can grow to see it as someone you're excited to see grow so you can share new experiences with them. You made a lifelong family member who will, a year or two from now, adore all the experiences you have to give them. OP replies, "Yeah, I grossly misunderstood the trade-off parents make for their children. I don't think I was ready for this level of sacrifice. If for nothing else though, this has given me a new appreciation for parents, and I can't even fathom how single parents get through this time." You're a Real Jerk replies, "It is a huge sacrifice in the infant stage, but I wholeheartedly agree with the person above. I was literally running on fumes for like a solid year. Around age 2, it was like my son completely transformed into a whole-ass person. Now he does things with me, travels with me, likes to help with carpentry projects, enjoys camping trips, absolutely eats up any piece of information I want to show and teach him. He's stoked to help his dad with cars, is a Dodgers fan, etc. The baby stage is so hard. But soon he won't be a baby anymore, and you'll be amazed at how much you can share with him. And he'll sleep more." Also, I know others mentioned it below, but men, fathers, and non-birthing partners absolutely can get PPD. I would strongly encourage you to speak with your physician about this, or if you don't have a personal physician, either your pediatrician or your wife's OB can refer you to someone for help. PPD isn't just something that impacts women. Hey Delicious replies, "My husband always says that daycare is the best money he ever spent. We both look forward to Monday mornings when we can hand off the babies to someone else and finally have some moments to ourselves, even if that means working. 95% of our bickering moments are related to who gets to shower, nap, exercise, poop, etc. It's insane that our basic needs become negotiable. You sure as hell ain't alone in your feelings. I think you wouldn't feel this way if you didn't care about the outcome, raising a happy, healthy, well-adjusted human. A good outcome requires a lot of work." And OP replies, "Yeah, I feel guilty feeling this way. She is truly precious and not bad. She's just a baby, and I don't think I knew how much it takes. I'm slowly letting go of all of the other things that made me happy, and I'm trying to hunker down and just get through this. This is what I called the grieving period when I was pregnant. Life as I knew it was over, but a new one was waiting for me, don't get me wrong. Sounds like you're in the grieving period. It takes a while to adjust. Don't be too hard on yourself." And now, on to the update. Hello everyone, and happy Friday. I wasn't going to write this update as it's been so long, but I realized that we are a community, and part of the power in community is in normalizing the experiences that we sometimes feel we go through alone. You are not alone. And feel free to ask me any questions about my journey below. I'll do my best to respond to everyone. If you haven't read my first post, in summary, I was feeling lost, sad, depressed, resentful, exhausted, emotional, overwhelmed, scared, and questioning if I'd ruined my whole life in what was supposed to be a joyous experience. So now that you've survived my introduction, here is my 2-year update. What does life feel like at this point? I could tell you what life is, but that's not how we connect as humans. We connect and function based on feelings and our perceptions. So with that being said, my heart has never been more full, my purpose has never been more clear, and while life has never felt the same, I'm not sure I'd ever want it to go back to the perfect life I had before my little girl. She's about to turn 2, and every morning I look forward to my daddy, 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 as she runs into my home office after she wakes up, and I look forward to my big goodnight hug and goodnight daddy before she is put into bed. Her laughs absolutely obliterate the shadows cast from a bad day at work, and chasing her on the playground at the park has become one of our favorite pastimes. When did it get better for you? It gets better in stages, but I'm still not sure how much of that is because things actually get much easier, or if there is a natural evolution we go through as first-time parents. I remember feeling absolutely exhausted and without any time. Today, I get full nights of sleep, usually. I have a few pockets to myself here and there, and while I don't get to sleep in late, stay up all night clubbing, or some of the more adolescent things that I used to enjoy, I am enjoying life again. 4 months. First smiles were nice, but still not enough to change the quality of life. 10 months. She started eating food, making lots of funny faces, and developed a fondness for me even though I wasn't fond of her. Those long nights were few and far between, and while I didn't have free time, I had sleep. And we all know that sleep is extremely, insert curse word here, important after the initial exhaustion in the early stages. 13 months. A mobile baby is a whole new challenge, and putting on the baby shows wasn't enough to keep her happy. It is again a shift where baby-proofing becomes a huge deal, and you also look around and realize your space has been taken over by the baby. Baby stuff was everywhere. I was much less depressed, but ready to go back to normal life. Hint, it never happens. 16 months. The babies make huge growth leaps in this time. Playtime becomes much more fun, and suddenly you can start doing things like slightly longer car rides to your favorite food places, etc. I realized half my beard had started graying, but oh well, it is what it is. 20 months. Words or babble and more words. This is a fun stage where exploration becomes a joint exercise. You find yourself enjoying rediscovering things you had forgotten were so amazing. Swings in parks and baby-appropriate bounce houses are commonplace. You also look up and realize that you've survived the infant stage and are now dealing with a fully blown funny toddler. They are weird, they are emotional, they are fun, they are loving, and they trust you to the edges of the universe and back. This was one of my favorite time periods so far. Emotionally, I realized I was no longer sad, and I had a kid, and I found that being gone from her for too long made me sad. Ugh, you start to feel like a real parent here. 22 months. I love my little one so much. I love her so much that I want another. What is wrong with me? The period that you hate goes by so quickly if you just hold on and keep your head down. I'm back to most of my favorite things, albeit with less time to enjoy. I love music, for instance, so I purchased a headphone amplifier and a $300 pair of headphones so I can enjoy music while I work. I have several toys I play with occasionally, but more than anything, I feel whole. It gets better. It gets better, and now I can't believe that I'm ready to have another. Those of you in this community that helped me were a godsend. I'm happy to be here, and anyone can always reach out if they have questions or just need encouragement. In the comments, I don't want a username says, "Oh my god, same boat. I thought I had ruined my life forever, and I'm not gonna lie, 16 months in, it sure does take a lot of energy, but I wouldn't trade kiddo for the world." I guess many parents just go through that hard hit of readjusting your whole life in an instant. OP replies, "I don't think I understood that having kids meant giving up everything you worked hard for in order to give it to someone else. For me, it was my utter lack of control over my own time, for sure." OP replies, "Absolutely. You go from weekends and evenings being recuperating time to being harder than the weekdays because of the huge time commitment." Gimme Gim Gim says, "This was so nice to read. My husband and I had a hard couple of weeks, and he's on the 4th attempt at a crib transfer right now. I sent this to him, and I think he'll feel a little hope after reading it. That crap is hard." OP replies, "Hardest crap I've ever done for sure. Tell him I said he is doing an amazing job, and that before he knows it, he will be willingly looking to put the kid to bed and get the kid up. It gets much more fun. More power, more rest, and more life are coming for you both." Flash Minitu says, "As a first-time father of an 8-month-old, this post has given me hope. There are so many moments where I don't feel too connected to my baby, and I feel so guilty about it. I find myself still trying to embrace fatherhood, and it sucks that it doesn't come easy to me like other dads. But reading about your experience made me think that maybe I just need more time with my baby, and hopefully I will no longer grieve my previous life. Thank you, and well wishes to your family." And OP replies, "You'll always miss the more carefree days, but you'll start to really enjoy the days you have now as well, man. Fellas nights and fantasy football leagues become much more sacred when you're a father." And I guess my contribution to this one is that I feel as though this was expected in a way. OP seemed to have been going through such a rough time. They didn't strike me as someone that was a bad person at all either, much like a lot of the stories that we read on this channel. And I'm honestly just so happy for them. I couldn't be happier for them, knowing how this situation has turned out. Here's hoping that life gets better for OP in the future, and many more happy memories to be made with their child. And also best of luck if they do have a second one, because they'll have to go through that whole process again, and oh my god. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.